When the owners of Craftsman made a decision to go to China, arguably that probably didn't need to happen, but they lost a generation of talent and engineers, and to make a really good high quality tool is not a commodity. It'll be interesting to see, what can come back. Just in our space, it's going to be easier on an Excel spreadsheet than it's going to be in executing a plan.
Tom, welcome to the Manufacturing Report podcast.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you, Scott.
We're going to talk about Wright Tools in a second, but first, just some background on you. What was your kind of career path that led you to become the CEO of Wright Tools?
Well, lifelong Clevelander, graduated from business school in Case Western Reserve and started my career at Arthur Andersen, which no longer exists, but I think from people from our generation, we're familiar with Arthur Andersen. It was a great firm. I was there about 5 years and then joined one of my clients for a few years. That was a food service company. And we sold that business. And so I was ready for my next venture in life. And I was introduced to a man named Dick Wright. That was in 1993. So I've celebrated 32 years here now at Wright Tool Company. Started out as CFO, and I've been the president now for 4 years.
That's fantastic. I might throw a question at you about Cleveland sports before the end of the podcast. I assume you may be a fan.
Well, we have one celebration in my lifetime.
One is better than zero. So,
exactly.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thanks for sharing that. And just a question. I mean, had you known about Wright Tools before you were introduced to the opportunity?
I did not. It was a long time Arthur Andersen client, but it wasn't assigned to me.
Okay.
So one of Dick's advisors was a partner from Arthur Andersen that knew me, so he connected me with Dick Wright. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was really just a wonderful company in Barberton, Ohio, that really services our country, and we have global sales as well. But no, it was a sleeper to me.
Yeah.
As was making hand tools. I was not in the manufacturing business before. I was in food service and public accounting, so this was my first venture in manufacturing. So I guess it stuck.
Let's talk about Wright Tools. You met Dick Wright. Was he the son of the founder? Is that right? Or
you're correct. Yeah, his father's C. Nelson Wright. And it's the same building we're in today. We've had a lot of additions, but in 1927, C. Nelson Wright started Wright Tool Company. He was in his early 30s, and he was a salesperson with another tool company. And apparently, I've never met C. Nelson, but as the story goes, he wanted to own his own business and pitched a tent here in Barberton, Ohio from scratch. And it's just an amazing story. He had one son, Dick. Right. But I found out something recently about C. Nelson that I hadn't known, that he actually was one of the first pilots for our country in World War I. There actually wasn't an Air Force. It was under the Army shield. I didn't even know there was. And he served in the Army as a pilot. So quite a story.
Seems like that was a high-risk military occupation at the time during World War I.
As was starting a tool company from scratch, I guess. But yeah. But it's worked out pretty well.
No, that's amazing. For folks who don't know where Barberton is, I've been through it before. I know it's adjacent to Akron, but there's a long history of some amazing manufacturing companies in and around Akron.
Yeah, there really are. This was sadly, a lot of them now don't exist, but you're right. True. This was a great manufacturing town, Barberton, Ohio. The Magic City. As it's known.
Yeah. Wright Tools, let's talk about the products that you make and your markets and how that has evolved. And I suspect that's changed over the course of your nearly 100-year history as well.
No, that's a good question. Yeah, we did start out. There's some that haven't changed. So as you can imagine now, knowing that C. Nelson served our country, the government has always been a customer of ours. It's a very patriotic type company that we really enjoy that the government use our hand tools. Our hand tools have been used by the Department of Defense in every conflict around the world, and it continued to this day. So that's a customer that's been there from the beginning that we're very proud about. Um, but it has evolved. In the early years, he came from an automotive based hand tool company. So he started out a bit automotive, but quickly
Hmm.
switched into a heavy duty industrial construction type tool. So a lot of our tools are quite large. They're things I describe them as tools we wouldn't necessarily use at home or in a car because they get quite large. Our combination wrenches get up to 4-inch openings. We have 8-inch openings on sockets.
Oh,
So
wow.
our customer base is very much about building our country, repairing our country, and defending our country.
Are your main markets commercial then?
Amen. Yep. So pretty much anywhere there's steel, we love steel because there's good bolts related to steel, and our tools are turning those bolts. End industries would include like oil and gas, commercial construction, refineries, a mining industry, um,
Yeah.
infrastructure. Pretty much, I tell our employees we have quarterly meetings, and I share stories about where our tools are used, and that really creates a prideful culture when they can see pictures of where our tools are being used. I say, hey, listen, you've heard the story Tom Bodette keeps the lights on. No, Wright Tool keeps the lights on because our tools were either used to build every power plant in this country or repair them on an
Wow.
ongoing basis. Anytime you drive over a bridge now, think about Wright Tool because our tools were either used to build that bridge or repair that bridge. So those are just a couple examples. Pretty much every arena, every casino. So it's where there's steel and cranes, that makes me happy because I know that our tools aren't far from those.
Yeah, yeah, clearly. And it's interesting to me because when you think about the evolution of different types of product categories, there's some things that still have nuts, bolts, need ratchets and wrenches, and all the kind of hand tools that you make. And at least to me, that makes that category of goods kind of stand out a bit.
No, I think it just, you can see how diverse our end user base is. So I think diversity lends a company to have longevity when it's diversified. So our customers are diversified. The industrial distribution business in America is unbelievably fragmented. You can
Hmm.
think of your large global distributors like a Granger, for example, or a Fastenal, but every town's got privately held, family owned businesses that are distributors. So we have probably 4,000 brick and mortar locations around the world where we'll ship our tools to. And then from
Hmm.
there, they sell them to the end users that are turning the bolts. So it's a nice diversified end user base. It's a diversified distribution base. It's something I guess pretty much most people don't think about, like how our country runs. And it's just fascinating, industrial and construction distribution channel.
Yeah, I think it's taken for granted, but as you point out, it's what built America and other things around the world as well. I was really intrigued to see on the website. It mentions that the tools were utilized in building and repairing the Hoover Dam, and as you point out, a lot of other iconic pieces of American infrastructure.
They are. We've got local projects going. I mean, people would know on the pot. Buffalo Bills stadiums going up now. Our tools are there. Tennessee's building a stadium. I think there's a new Hard Rock going on in Vegas right now that our tools are part of those. There's a bridge here in Akron that's going up. I tell our
Mhm.
employees every day now. I said, there you go. Our tools are being used. A couple different distributors are selling them to the contractors on that job. So it's interesting. And in some of the wars now going on, I know they're in Israel, they're in Ukraine right now, they're on bases in the Middle East. It's real prideful. There's some awesome Humvees our Department of Defense use, and I know we have large tool sets that are being used on all those Humvees where they're being repaired and managed. And
Hmm, that's really interesting. Um, so nearly 100 years operating as an American manufacturer, the company has obviously seen some ups and downs, and I just know manufacturing is very responds to economic cycles as
yeah,
well. And if you've been there 30 years, you've seen a few of them.
yeah,
And I'm wondering, it's not easy to have that kind of longevity in a business that, quite honestly, I mean, there's not as much competition as restaurants, I'll put it that way, but there is competition, right? And there is global competition.
Big
So,
companies too.
yeah, what's
Big-
the secret sauce? How do you all do it? And
yeah.
were there times where you had to really kind of bootstrap it?
Certainly I think there's four people. Leadership matters, and I think in addition to C. Nelson Wright and then his son Dick Wright, um, Pat and Terry Taylor were the other. Those four people are the pillars of the foundation of this business, and it was built around being best in class. We really are prideful about our innovations, our patents. We have to be the strongest tool. We have to be the best quality tool. And then we have to service our customers. And this company is very servant oriented inside this building and to our customers. And, we answer the phone call. We have actually customer service people that answer the calls. We answer emails every day. We understand we're here for customers. That matters. There's three things. There's price, quality, service, but you only get two. You can't have all three. So we know ours has to be the best quality, and we have to service people better than anybody because our tools are not inexpensive.
Yeah.
The quality matters too. I remember Dick Wright when I was interviewing, just talking about, Tom, at home, you have 1/4-inch drive, you have 3/8-inch drive tools, and if a tool fails you might skin your knuckles or something. With these large tools I've described to you, with iron workers and pipe fitters and mechanical contractors, if a tool ever fails, you have a serious injury, and we take that really due care here.
Of course.
There's 17 departments in our factory that make a socket and a wrench. I mean, go think about that. I mean, I remember my first day on the tour, I had no idea. As a financial guy that I had manufacturing clients at Arthur Andersen, I had these preconceived notions where, this is going to be easy making a socket or a wrench. When I came through the factory and saw all the quality checks, all the different departments, what I call barriers to entry of what we do, all the capital and inventory and tooling and equipment, I came up to Dick and I said, how much do we charge for these tools again? Because whatever it is, it ain't enough. I mean, it's just amazing. And I guess that model is bode well, but the other part of it is what Pat and Terry was building a culture. We've had so many multi-generational people that have worked there. We have people now where their grandparents retired from this company, and it's just a really good culture that I think started with Dick Wright. When he interviewed me, he said, Tom, I've had plenty of people in Akron, my friends that had successful businesses, and they decided to sell their businesses. And then they became very philanthropic in town. Their names are on the schools and hospitals, and they're very charitable. And he goes, I think that's awesome, community service. But another form of community service is to keep a company going generation from generation.
Absolutely.
Being best in class, having good paying jobs with good benefits, but more importantly, have an engaged workforce where everybody has a responsibility to make the company better.
Yeah.
He goes, I think that's good community service too. And he had me, at that moment. And I'm trying to keep that going. I think we have just a wonderful culture with good people here, and I think that's part of the sauce is the people.
Wanted to ask you about the workforce because I know lots of employers have different approaches to this. And obviously how you recruit workers has changed over the years. It used to be just drawn from the shop class or the family. Right. And maybe y'all still do that. But I'd be curious to know how you've adapted, because obviously the system, the opportunities, everything has changed so much over the last generation or two. How are you able to get people in the door and then keep them, which is also key?
Yeah. I think there was certainly a long stretch of where we just happened, because we have 150 employees, so we don't have like 15,000 employees.
Sure.
That would be a whole different ballgame. But with the size business and the community we were in, we were always, because of our reputation, people wanted to work at Wright Tool, and our HR, Pat, had always had a drawer ready for people that were just waiting for openings. So that is something I think our longevity keeps that reputation going. COVID certainly was a time of a game changer.
Of course.
we had a lot of people that took early retirement. We had some other people decided just to take a pause or what have you. And that wore us out, having to rebuild a workforce of where we were probably 30 to 35 people short in the factory.
Hmm.
And that took us about 3 years. I do this because it was hard. That was an unusual period for us. So that the word resilience is a really important word in manufacturing. So that was a time to be resilient and just keep at it. And I would say over the last year and a half now, we've got a stable workforce where we're 100% where we want to be, and our turnovers where it used to be pre-COVID. But there was that stretch where I think society changed on us a little bit,
Yeah.
and it was just unfortunately having to. I think we probably had, let's say, 300 W-2s to get those 35 people.
Mm.
I mean,
Okay.
we were just rotating. Some people we had to ask to leave. Other
Right.
people, after a month or two, said this isn't for me. So it was a difficult stretch during post-COVID for sure, but we're back to normal.
Oh, that's interesting. And are you able to connect either with the high schools or the community colleges or others where there might be talent pipelines, or is it just kind of everybody for him or herself?
No, that's a great question. We're fortunate that Barberton High School, it's a great high school, and they
Hmm.
actually have a very good program. So we
Great.
made sure that we're engaged in that program. We do samples for our tools. We send people there to be lecturers, and we've actually hired interns, and a couple of them have gotten to full-time positions with us. So we look at that
Excellent.
as an ongoing thing with
Yeah.
the local high school, and then we help some of our workforce is very skilled. We really have to hire somebody that's been in manufacturing before. The different cells are forging, heat treat, plating, machining. There's 17 departments.
Oh, wow.
That's
That's a lot.
that's nice
Yeah.
too, because that gives
Yeah.
people some variety
Hmm.
too once they're here, if they see something else they'd like to try. And we run 3 shifts as well, just to keep flow going. And I think that gives people some affordability to, if they want to move around on different shifts. So I think we do have some flexibility um, as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I do think that there's techniques, and obviously you've adapted them that can help. I think with the new expectations that perhaps a new generation has, but it sounds like you've kind of met them where they are too, and then brought them in.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, there's things we really do talk about being a family. I've decided Dick Wright used to have quarterly meetings with the employees where he'd get pretty transparent with a lot of information that he wanted to share about how we're doing. Who doesn't want to understand how is their company doing? Are we doing good? Are we doing well? How can we improve? So I keep that tradition going. I think that's an important uh, part, to be honest and transparent with the workforce. I mean, these people are just amazing Americans that are coming and manufacturing every day and working really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we are bending steel. It's hot in the factory, and we have a really good blend too of equipment that's older than me, and that's pretty old. And then we have modern equipment, so it's
Yeah,
really an interesting. I'd love for you. You're always welcome to come visit us.
I'd
It's an
love to. Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
factory.
Yeah. Yeah, and I take it you still do machining rather than additive manufacturing, at this point with the kinds of products that you're making. Is that
Yep,
fair to
there's
say?
plenty of various machining cells.
Yeah.
There's, like I said, the hot forging cells.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's a good blend of, things that'll be here for a long time. We obviously maintain uptime's everything, so we maintain the equipment very well.
Yeah.
But it is a nice blend. We're always sending our engineers off to the shows to see what's new. And
One question that I did want to ask related to that is that, some things change, some things stay the same, but I imagine there's a lot of innovation that people don't appreciate that goes into the wrenches, the ratchets, and everything else, both in terms of strength, lightweighting, or whatever goals you're trying to achieve. And how is this something you do in house? Do you have
we do.
metallurgical scientists that you work with? I'm just curious about your
No,
innovation
no,
approach.
we
Yeah.
do. Dick Wright, for obviously decades, then Dick was our chief engineer as well as the CEO. And he held about 20 patents or so in his career.
Oh, wow.
And since then, I think what's really sets us apart is we have three current patents that still will be with us well into the 2030s. And they actually cover, let me show you, they cover both sides. So our patents cover both the open side of all the sockets as well as the drive size. So we
Okay.
have something called Wright Drive 2.0
Yeah.
as well as Wright Square. And that's unique. There's no other company that has that. And then as well as our combination wrenches, we have a patent called Wright Grip that covers the open end of all our combination wrenches, and then Wright Drive is on the closed end.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I mean, and these are functional real patents that are strength and safety type patents.
Hmm.
Um, our industry is covered by government standards, and I always do this when I talk about standards because, as they should be, there's ranges. There's just not one number. And
Hmm.
the company and its brand name can decide where do they want to be in the range.
Hmm.
If you're, again, a retail import product that doesn't require significant strength or what have you, you could make an inexpensive tool
Oh, yeah.
on the low end of the range. We actually
Yeah.
exceed the range. And the cost of manufacturing that is that's where all the secret sauce is, to be consistent with your tolerances and the way that our tools fit the fasteners where you get all your strength from,
Hmm.
as well as making sure how you fit the fastener matters. The fasteners can be a lot more expensive than a wrench. And then if you have a
Sure.
poor tool that's rounding fasteners, and somebody thought they saved their company money because they bought an inexpensive wrench, but they could be buying a lot of fasteners because they damaged them.
That makes a
Or
great deal of sense. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's a lot of relationship value selling in our product and educating people, and it's just fascinating because I'm
Yeah.
smiling because 32 years ago I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you a question that comes up a lot when I'm talking to folks in either family businesses or entrepreneurs who are trying to build something in the United States. And that is that in almost every case, someone has approached them and said, "Why don't you outsource your stuff? Or I can help you outsource it to China." And
Right.
you may have had entreaties like that as well. And I know your commitment to Made in America is deep, but
Right.
what was that like?
I think first of all, most of our business is in America, and I
Yeah.
guess we have a philosophy of servicing our customers. If we can't do it, 10,000 miles closer, shame on us, number one. Number two, I think if you truly want to service your customer, controlling all your operations in-house, it's all on you then. I remember in the 70s, again, in Barberton and Akron, our company outsourced all our tooling. It was not made. And quite frankly, I mean, if you don't have the tooling and the dies when you need it, you could
Mhm.
be out of stock for a long time.
Sure.
And that was an initiative that our company made at that point, and that was really a great idea because number one, you can't make a good tool without a good die and
Right.
good tooling to start with. And we do all that ourselves. So not only do we make
Mm.
all our products here under one roof, we make all the tooling
That's
and dies
amazing.
for all the
Yeah.
products. And again, it's controlling your quality, most importantly, uh, your delivery and your
Yeah.
fill rates. And that's everything. From the industries I described to you, can you imagine if, a power plant was having a turnaround and 115 contractors were showing up next week and they didn't have their tool sets?
Yeah.
How silly is that, quite frankly?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
our promise that, we keep a tremendous amount of inventory because that's our promise to our customers that, we're a go-to. When you need
Yeah.
it, Wright Tool has it.
Thank you for sharing that. And let's talk Made in America for a second. Obviously, when you're dealing with government, some purchasers are covered by requirements that things have to be
Right.
made in the United States, and we actually push policies like that. But in the commercial space, yeah, there's usually no requirement like that.
Right.
So, is that part of your pitch, or is that something your customers want? I'm curious as to how the Made in America ethos works with both the customers as well as you, and it's very prominent, obviously, on the website.
No. I even think globally, and certainly in our country, there's still a tremendous amount of patriotism and feeling that made in USA is superior.
Hmm.
And I think we obviously educate our customer base. Our tools are superior through our innovations, our patents, and then, quite frankly, the people that use it. There's nothing better than getting our tool in the hand of somebody that uses them for a living. They know right away. There's nothing more personal than a pipe fitter or an iron worker that's holding our wrench every day, making his living. He knows.
Yeah.
As soon as he puts our tool on a fastener, he knows. And then the safety issue is a big thing.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think most of those end user contractors, Bechtel, Zachary's, I mean, they know once again, nobody wants an injury.
Yeah.
And we have that reputation that our tools do not fail. We give a lifetime warranty, of course we do, but we don't have any failures.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, here's a story. Obviously, I always remember this. Dick Wright told a story. Our company still sits on the government standards boards. So he represented us during his time here, and he told a story of he walked into a government standards meeting, and there was a new chairperson, a new general major. And there were 20 people in the room, and Dick walked in, it got quiet, and the general major looked at him and said, "Mr. Wright, I've been waiting to meet you my whole life."
Mm.
And Dick was curious. He said, "Why is that?" And the general major said, "I was a helicopter pilot for the Marines in Vietnam. I was on a rescue mission in Vietnam to rescue 20 people that were under a fire. My helicopter went down and it was inoperable. I turned around and I looked, and there was a toolbox set on the helicopter I never looked at before. It was a red box that said Wright Tool. I had to repair my helicopter. I opened them up. I used the tools. I did the repair job. And the mission was successful. What good would a lifetime warranty have done me at that moment if your tools didn't work?" And that's one of the great. I've shared that story not with you, but I've shared that story with our employees, and I just think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
If somebody's on an oil rig or a refinery, I mean, who the heck wants something that fails in the industries I've explained to you? I mean, what a waste. So we take really due care, and I think Made in USA is a kind of a promise that we carry on, that our tools will achieve.
In the current moment, there's obviously a lot of conversation about manufacturing and tariffs and China and everything else, and you have to operate in the real world. Obviously, you're a business, but one of the arguments that I hear, and believe me, we want to, we're all about bringing more manufacturing to the United States, and we think China has been really problematic. One of the arguments is that, well, we don't need to do this, we don't want to do this, other people can do this, it's not that important. When I hear that, I bristle, but I wonder, you've been following the debate, and what your reaction has been to all of that.
Well, I do think, obviously, I've seen, just in my short 30-year career in what I do, the devastation within our industry of losing manufacturing to China, the tool makers. I mean, just wonderful brand names that have been devastated, and wonderful companies. When the owners of Craftsman made a decision to go to China, I mean, there are companies and thousands of people that lost their jobs in this country, and companies that went out of business, and arguably that probably didn't need to have to happen. But they lost a generation of talent and engineers. And, what I just described to you, this is, to make a really good high quality tool is not a commodity.
Yeah.
And that talent is it'll be interesting to see, what can come back just in our space, whether a company in our space can bring operations back. It's going to be easier on an Excel spreadsheet than it's going to be in executing a plan because of the people.
Right.
But do I think of course it's great for the generations to come in our country. Even in our own household, you can't outsource all your laundry. You got to do some of it yourself at home. And I think America needs to swing some of it back. I just, again, see wonderful Americans that have prideful careers in manufacturing. And I look forward to that. I think that would be great for our country and good for communities. And I applaud all that.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen? Well, of course it's not going to happen overnight. And maybe I'll be in a rocking chair someday seeing more of it. But I think it will happen.
Yeah. Well, as you described, Tom, I mean, it took 30 years to lose a lot of this. It's not like it's going to come back with the snap of the fingers in a summer. It takes a while to rebuild something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think hopefully, just my amateur opinion right now, in terms of if our country can get this bill behind us, and I think tax cuts are welcome for everybody, that would be the first step to just to resolve tariffs, so everybody knows what the costs are, so we can go on our merry way and do business with each other.
Right.
And then obviously, lastly, I would like to think that our interest rates have some room to come down. I think if all three of those can start to fall into place, I really think our country's in for a nice run here,
Yeah.
where it
Yeah.
has obviously been choppy waters for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I think something that both people from both political parties agree on is you shouldn't bet against America. That if we, if we get the policy
Right.
there, that we can have a bright future.
Agree.
So, that's for sure. So let me just ask you a lightning round question. So who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns in the fall? Because they have a quarterback room with I don't know, what, 5 or 6 guys right now?
Four. All right, so it won't be the rookies. So, watching Joe Flacco a couple years ago was a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see him start. He might not be there the whole year, but it'd be nice to get him on opening day.
All right, we're going to circle back in September to see if Tom's right about this, but his guess is as good as anybody's because I have no clue who it's going to be. Great. Well, Tom, thank you so much for your thoughts, for sharing the history of Wright Tools. You're committed to Made in America. Enjoyed the conversation and appreciate having you on the manufacturing.
It was a pleasure, and please come visit us when you're in town. Please come see us.
Would love to do that.
Great.